Hey guys, me Dave. I just thought I would do a video. Video. So I started therapy on Friday. I can't remember if I told you guys that or not. I have therapy again tomorrow. Apparently, we're going to do this for 2 more months. I don't know what we're going to do for 2 months. I don't know. Baby steps. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to drag it out. It's like I have a black eye almost. Um, so I just thought, I'm still going through it, torturing my feet all the time, and can hardly transfer and get on the toilet and all that stuff. So I thought I'd just do a little video because I'm kind of starting to see through the matrix a little bit, and kind of, is my opinions, my assumptions, but I realized that there's more perps out there than I thought. Um, that like I say, Ella, uh, this Jesse guy, that Dr. Matt, all those people are perps. I think we're really fooled. I think Vulcan Wolverine is a perp. He just kind of disappeared. I think his job ended. I don't believe he's real. I don't believe his targeting stopped. I don't think he was ever targeted. And when I look back at some of the silly things he did, putting a tent up in his bedroom and covering it in tinfoil, and all these goofy things, made a enclosure and put a bunch of quilts on top, and you look back and it really is retarded. uh you know and we know now that that stuff doesn't work. 100 layers of tinfoil on a tent, that you're sleeping in your house, that's you know that will never work. So you look back on all the stuff all these people have done, and they will create websites and all this stuff to make it look real, and you buy it for, well, years. So I mean, Kyle's gone. James Lico's gone. um, I thought Jeff Medor was real. um, he made a few videos. He made like 5 videos and kind of disappeared. um, his videos are on YouTube. Jeff Medor, I thought he was real. He was so sincere and all that stuff, until you notice that he's reading a script. Um, he was reading a script off the computer. Well, if you're a real victim, um, or you're testifying in court and you're a real victim, you don't need a script. You can count every time you're victimized. You can remember the dates, you can remember the times, and all that stuff. So I'm assuming he's fake too. He kind of disappeared a couple years ago. Desiree Foley, she's probably from an agency, FBI or someone. She hooked up with that Jesse guy, so she's government, obviously. She was on Alex Jones. And how does somebody like that make all the right moves, meet all the right people, and stuff like that? Um, like I say, it is half truths. I mean, they are talking about this, bringing it out, but I would not trust any. We are not going to get the truth of what's really going on. All I know, there's a lot of perps out there, and I was fooled for years. Um, and But then when you look back and you realize the silly things these people do, and they're getting reactions out of you. Okay. Brian too, I don't know what he is. He's too dramatic. He is doing everything that this program calls for. he puts the fear of death in you. He says they're gonna kill you. They're gonna kill you. He's very dramatic, theatrical. He's always videoing his torture and all that stuff. So I don't know who he is exactly. I question who he is and how he got all his information. I know a lot of it is Dr. Duncan. Duncan's still alive. He's a perp. Dr. Hall, I think, I don't know what he is. I think he's maybe switched sides. I mean, he's still talking about this and stuff, But we're in a matrix of half truths and perpetrators, basically. Brian too is on a script. He says the same thing over and over and over again. He has it memorized. He's very intelligent, and he has it memorized, and he says the same thing over and over and over again 20 times. He's a script. He's on script. If you were to, like me, I'm a real target. If I were to have a real conversation and throw him off script, it just, that wouldn't work in their favor. You know what I mean? So, I mean, he hops on those calls. It's street theater when he hops on those calls, and he sticks to a script. Well, he doesn't let anybody else talk because he has to stay on that script. If some random person asked him something off the script, he probably wouldn't know what to say. You know what I mean? My family members are on the script. They get Voice of Skull, tell them what to say and all this stuff. So I really question who he is. He's so dramatic and he's being tortured so bad, supposedly, that I really question who he is, because a few days ago I was going to leave a comment on his Facebook page, and his Facebook page turned off for a couple days, and I noticed it's back, but all the comments are disabled. So I think he's part of the Matrix. I think Duncan's more involved than he is. I think he's still government. Everything Dr. Duncan is talking about years ago is happening. I think the book was published under fiction because it's probably half truths, and stuff. So, I mean, you kind of put the pieces together, common sense, it's just a bunch of propaganda, basically, for reactions. I think if there's a so-called trauma-based mind control, I don't know if that's true. I really have been in the program since, 3 or 6 years old. They don't need trauma to map the brain. The research is already done for me. My brain was mapped out probably 20 years ago. If the government comes out and says, we're going to spend millions of dollars mapping the brain, they already did it probably 10 or 20 years ago, So the research is already done. I'm just being tortured to hell, I mean, I really don't see any other reason for it, Yeah, they were getting reactions on me and stuff like that. Showing me hot women all the time, and stuff like that for reactions. And I think that was more about fine tuning the technology or something. I don't know. I don't know. But they were able to do this stuff to me decades ago, when I was a teenager. So I don't think they need to cause trauma to control a person. I don't believe that, or to map the brain. I don't believe it, you know. So my research is already done. There's probably been 50 years of research on me. I'm just being tortured to hell for whatever reason. I don't think it's research. I think it's torture. You know. So that's my opinion. You know, I'm just starting to see through it after years and years. And then, common sense kicks in. Well, these goofy people don't make any sense. They're covering themselves up in tinfoil, trying to get you to do it and look like a moron. So when the cops show up, you're wearing a tinfoil hat, basically. So yeah, that's my opinion, you guys. I don't know how many of us are real. I think there's, you know, I'm sure there are many of us that are real, but like I say, a lot of James Legal disappeared, Kyle disappeared. There's many others that disappeared that aren't around anymore because I think, their job ended or something. I don't know. I don't think it's because their targeted ended, you know. So, because Kyle made a video. He's all clean shaven, haircut, everything. He looked pretty healthy to me. And then I made a comment on my video. I said, "Wow, he looks good. He's all cleaned up and stuff." And then a month later, he's all grubby and long hair, greasy hair. You know what I mean? It's an act. It's part of what they do. You know, but it gets reactions, and it looks silly and it's stupid, and that's what they do. Anyway, that's my opinion, you guys. I don't know what's gonna happen. I got 2 more months of this, I guess. I don't know. I wish it would end tomorrow, but so I don't know. They brought my truck up here. I mean, you know, I don't know when I'll be able to see my dogs. I don't know when anything's gonna happen. So I don't know, man. I think you're too nice. A lot of us are too nice. We're too nice. We're not. We sit here and put up with it. We're too nice. You know what I mean. But anyway, I don't know. So whatever. I just touch, give you an update or whatever. So I'll talk to you guys later.